Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Finance. I'm your host, Ron Geffner. I started my career at the SEC where I used to prosecute money managers, went from the SEC into private practice where I've been in the financial services industry for over 30 years. Yes, that's right. Babyface like mine, still doing it over 30 years. I've learned how the sausage is made and I'm trying to share all the information I know with everybody out in the audience. Today, I'd like to welcome Frank Tumminello to Unfiltered Finance. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ron. Greatly appreciate you spending time to host us on your platform and excited for the relationship that we're building.
As am I. And Frank is young. He's in his 30s still. His story I found very interesting, which is why I wanted to have him on as a guest. So Frank, why don't you tell us your career path post-college and how you got into the business of the third-party administrative pre-tax benefit space prior to what you're doing now, which is obviously FileForms.
Of course. Thank you so much. So yeah, just for background, I'm currently CEO and co-founder of a software company called FileForms. However, I did start my career in the finance world after studying physics, math, and computer science in college. Naturally, one goes into financial services investment banking. So I worked at Oppenheimer in their FIG investment banking group, largely post-financial crisis. So there was a lot of consolidation amongst the big banks with respect to meeting the Dodd-Frank regulatory environment that was the case post 2008. So a lot of good acquisitions, capital raises, debt, equity, public, private in my first few years out of school. Then I was working in the Boston office there, ended up getting a job at a Boston-based private equity firm called Century Equity Partners, which was a middle market fund primarily investing in financial services, insurance, and healthcare. So once again, highly regulated industries. Typically, we're investing in founder-owned and operated platforms that were taking institutional capital for the first time. So we were helping provide some liquidity and some growth capital to those bootstrap businesses and ultimately helping them fund the next phase of growth, which typically included some amount of M&A. So after doing 5 or 6 years at that fund, I had the opportunity to go to business school, as many do. I also had the opportunity to actually join a business, which was one of our portfolio companies, the third-party administrator that you mentioned there, Ron. I thought that was a good decision at the time because at the time it was also the COVID pandemic and the business school experience wasn't going to be the fun travel and the social side of it, which a lot of folks do pay to go and network in business school. So decided to join a company that was in our portfolio, a business called Flores and Associates, and led them through their first acquisition opportunity and then 8 subsequent acquisitions that were very successful. In about 18 months from joining that business, we actually transacted to a large private equity firm called the Vistria Group out of Chicago, a multi-billion-dollar fund. And at that point, I was ready to sunset into my entrepreneurship career. So what was really interesting about all of those experiences leading up to the founding of FileForms was just all the different learning experiences, B2B software, providing good service, white glove support, being there for clients, listening to clients. So there was a lot of really meaningful learning experiences that kind of went underway that influenced how we got to where we are today as a company.
I appreciate the comprehensive background. So I want to slow it down just a little bit because I'm always curious how the paths that we all take. So what was your title or role at the private equity firm in Boston that you were there for 5 or 6 years?
I was a senior associate when I then took a director role at the company Flores.
So what was first, how'd you get the job? I assume it was right after the financial crisis. Firms, wasn't like everybody wanted to hire people. It must have been more challenging.
Definitely challenging at the time. As anyone gets a job, a lot of networking and working the alumni network from my school and jobs prior. I was a huge proponent of meeting new people in industries that I had an interest in and always knew that I wanted to work in sub-segment of investing and operations. So private equity was the natural North Star. And after you get some reps, live reps in the private equity world, making platform investments, acquisitions, and then selling the business after a whole period, you make a lot of people a lot of money, and you get to that point where you want a little bit bigger of a piece of the action and skin in the game. And that's what kind of guides you to entrepreneurship.
So what led you to transition to the portfolio company? Like, how'd you go about executing that? And why that portfolio company versus potentially others?
What attracted me to that business was the fact that they were operating in an expansive market. There's a triple tax advantage to using pre-tax benefits such as HSAs, healthcare savings accounts. It's a very fast growing kind of macroeconomic environment, which I found attractive. And then the company ultimately had a proprietary piece of technology, which made acquisitions very accretive. When we buy other businesses that were operating more manually or paying others for third-party software, there was a natural synergy that allowed us to purchase our acquisitions primarily with debt and then ultimately reap the benefit of some pretty meaningful profit improvements once that acquisition came onto our platform. Another piece of the business was the fact that we distributed through brokers. So we were distributing tax benefits and voluntary benefits through a network of insurance brokers. Think the Aons and the USIs of the world, the Gallaghers. So I was fascinated by the idea of one-to-many relationships. So as I sought out to build FileForms, I took a lot of those learnings. And now at FileForms, we actually work with the distribution network of over 2,000 professional services providers, which is largely a testament for it being intentional to build out a network that you can distribute your services to, because everyone has trusted advisors in business and everyone wants less relationships with more value. So we really focus on that in our compliance go-to-market strategy.
And what was your role in connection with the exit or sale of the third-party administrator? I'm curious there.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, I thought that the third-party administrator ultimately sold.
Yeah.
That you had an exit. So what was the driver? What was the driver to the timing of the exit?
Yeah.
How does one know when to sell from what you've learned in your experience?
Private equity is a very defined hold period. For the most part, it's 4 to 5 years to drive a 20 to 25% IRR. And when I joined that business, we were in the back nine of the hold period. And it was really me joining to build out the M&A practice so that the next firm coming in would have that as a growth lever amongst the organic growth that the business was experiencing. It was largely the hold period kind of coming to a point where the business had grown meaningfully. It had built some new growth channels that were working, and that led to a good exit for the firm I was working at. And ultimately, the new firm took hold and is continuing to grow the business today.
Was this sold to another PE fund?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Another PE fund focused in the same industries that my firm was as well. Yeah.
So you leave the third-party administrator. You have a few coins in your pocket, I assume. Not enough to call it a day.
Definitely not.
How'd you come about finding FileForms? Did you create it from scratch, or is this an pre-existing business?
I created it from scratch, really out of frustration because I had missed an annual report filing in the state of Florida. I got penalized $400 for missing that filing. At the time, I was working 100+ hour weeks, churning SIMs, trying to make presentations to investment committees. I was not managing a personal LLC as proactively as I should have. And I had formed that LLC to purchase my first piece of real estate as an investment. And in school, in banking, in private equity, they don't really teach you as much about compliance, the necessary requirements to keep a legal entity in good standing. So I completely got blindsided by the fine. It wasn't detrimental to my finances or my business aspirations, but I did think there needed to be an easier way. And it did open up an aperture that there was other folks dealing with the same problem, probably more so at a higher magnitude than I was. Think a family office, for example, manage hundreds or thousands of entities to manage a more sophisticated portfolio. Think about the businesses that we were buying, and their compliance in all 50 states required a lot of times. And really at the point of doing the deal, seeing all the cleanup work that was required to get those business back in good standing before we transact. And it just seemed like the most fundamental piece of any business nationwide. It was a huge market, non-discretionary, and that's what ultimately attracted me to it. dating back to why I studied physics in college, that kind of first principle, primary, fundamental approach to anything is really interesting to me. And then all the complexity that can span from it, it really does unravel pretty quickly. So I thought that was interesting. And then once again, post-COVID, work remote, everyone is now working from their home. The multi-state footprint of business really got more complicated. So the timing of when we launched our business with the remote work environment and multi-state compliance being top of mind, and entrepreneurship just unfolding, more formations, more legal entities for side hustlers and gig workers. It was really an intriguing opportunity. And then since really the last 12 to 24 months, the prevalence of AI usage and all the apps that are being built on products like Lovable and Claude and all these really exciting enablement tools that are taking folks like you and I who have maybe no formal software training from a professional standpoint, but now being able to build really exciting, usable software tools, which should continue as well. Those are a few of the trends that we've been beneficiaries of. And we actually serve CPAs as well in our product. And that's another thing that's been impacted a lot by private equity recently. A lot of consolidation of CPA firms looking to drive efficiencies and workflow automation and improve margins. Our product really feeds right into that.
So you said, I think you touched on this, but if you didn't, I'm curious. So why not buy an existing versus build from scratch?
We actually considered buying other businesses in the space. And I think for one reason or another, folks have price expectations and have built technology the best they can. And every time we reached a point where the business was the right size and the right opportunity and a reasonable price, we'd get under the hood on the technology, and it was simply going to need a full rewrite because it wasn't built on modern rails. It wasn't mobile optimized. It isn't adaptable for white labeling or building API endpoints to inject the filing flows into pre-existing workflows or pre-existing systems that might make up where the user's logging into every day to actually complete work. So just underwhelmed by kind of the incumbents led us to take a meaningful risk on funding a development team to build what we believe to be the modern approach to compliance, and doing that in a way that's very professional services, a trusted advisor first, and API first, so that the trusted advisor can manage on behalf of their clients and at times even reap a monetary benefit for that.
All right, so let's get to the heart of what you're doing now. Why don't you tell us, the audience, about what FileForms does? Obviously, try and keep it like high level.
Sure thing. Fundamentally, what FileForms does is we offer a TurboTax style experience for filing corporate filings. So we felt like tax filings were getting a lot of attention. Things like annual reports and foreign qualifications and certificates of good standing typically don't get enough attention. And those are the services that we focus on. So we don't do any tax filings. We also don't provide any legal advice. We partner with the tax advisors and the law firms to bring compliance as a service to the firm. So we handle all of those corporate filings, everything from forming legal entities all the way to keeping them compliant as they grow into multiple different states. As we mentioned, multi-state compliance and multi-entity compliance. We work with a lot of firms that are in the real estate space, managing hundreds of LLCs and the complexities that come with that. We automate data, documents, payments. Every single deadline in every single state varies. So as a result, our system is providing proactive analytics, connectivity to the Secretary of State, so that you're never going to miss a deadline, never going to have to pay a late fee, never going to have an entity dissolved unnecessarily and putting your business potentially at risk of a lawsuit or personal liability. So we offer these services in all 50 states through a white labeled platform that has API functionality that really allows you to manage it on behalf of your clients or provide your clients a do-it-yourself experience so that they can manage it without your involvement. So that's what we do. And then alongside that, we'd like to say our clients deserve the remarkable experience. So at the end of the day, we offer white glove customer service as well, so that folks can have a point of contact at our company to process anything they need. So that's at a high level what we do and a little bit on who we serve and how we do it.
And what would you say is one of the most challenging or the most challenging issues you're facing right now, having formed this business?
Talent is always something that can be challenging. I think at this point, we're 4 years into the project and have built a really nice client base. But at this point, we're seeing a lot of talent start coming to our doorstep, which is really exciting and I think very validating. So I'm very blessed to be working with such a great team, specifically my development team and my account management team who supports our clients every single day. So that's big. Keeping up with technology, I put a lot of time proactively into the different models of AI that are coming out and being at the forefront of, token usage and what's the most optimal way to deliver that ideal client outcome. So a lot of internal process built to benefit from all of the connectivity that you can have this day and age with some of the tools that continue to develop. So that's been definitely a deliberate effort. And then honestly, just dealing with the government is always challenging. Full transparency, as much as we can do on the technology side, leveraging nearly every AI enablement one could fathom under the sun. The government is doing the opposite to some degree at the same time.
Government's reducing efficiency? Shocker.
I wouldn't take it that far. I'd like to think they have best intentions in mind, but I think to a degree, they're in that process of hopefully refining things. They do sometimes offer you a black box experience, and it's tough communicating sometimes that with the clients. But at the end of the day, we do pick up the phone. We'll call on behalf of our clients, whether it's Secretary of State or the IRS, to follow up on an EIN or an error. So we really try to, once again, go above and beyond. But yeah, just hoping more governments get online, reap the benefits of all the technology and the data that can be shared very securely. Those are a few items that are top of mind there.
And what are the things you plan on doing over the next 3 to 5 years in your business plan?
Definitely building the team. We've built our team meaningfully in the last 12 months and have some really key hires teed up, which is exciting, continuing to scale there. More and more features within the product. We firmly believe in product-led growth. So really listening to our clients. What are the pain points they have? What do they need? What are they planning for in their business? So right now we're doing actually a client advisory roundup. So talking to our top clients, understanding in 2027 what they're planning for and how we can support that. Acquisitions is top of mind as well. Seeing a lot of interesting opportunities as folks plan for succession planning and going out there and selling their business. So a lot of subscale platforms out there that might seek liquidity or a good home for their books. So that's something we're really excited about and caters well to my historical experience at prior firms.
And what do you think your advantage is relative to your peer group?
I would say our technology front and center is a pretty defensible one. Our service, I think, is right there with the top providers in the space, if not leading the charge. On the technology topic as well, our open API capability to enable compliance into all of the folks out there building applications, the neobanks, the fintechs, the SaaS platforms, the family office technology gurus. So seeing a lot of interest in our API connectivity more and more. And then we're actually about to launch a zero-touch pro onboarding flow where someone can come onto our site, completely white label their own branding, which you can do already, but now they can do it completely on their own. They can set their retail rates on their filings and put in their bank account information and really just run with it. Take a lot from Stripe, the payment processor. They built a very developer-first API go-to-market strategy, and we're doing that in our market.
So potentially how I'm interpreting it is, so instead of hiring salespeople, people can run their own businesses on the front end of your infrastructure. Indirectly, it's free salespeople.
To some degree, yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
That's a very creative approach. So congrats on that one.
Thank you. And I think more and more folks are leveraging tools to build out a distribution channel, whether it's through partners or AI agents or email flows, or we're leading right into all of that.
And you mentioned relationships on behalf of FileForms. You mentioned the number 2000. So walk me through the mindset there, how you find these relationships, what you're doing to cement them and develop customer loyalty?
Definitely. So when we launched the business outright, we wanted to focus on one-to-many relationships. We felt like if we could serve the trusted advisor who already has the attention of the client, then it would be natural to serve hundreds of clients at a time as we meet those advisors. It really made up who my network is from my prior life prior to becoming a founder. And then my co-founder, Kenny Detman, he was a CPA and partner, managing director actually at Alvarez and Marsal. So he had a pretty prevalent network of CPA and lawyer connections. And then we launched our initial platform with a CPA association tax rep network. And it was remarkable, the type of attention we got out of the gates. So we've always partnered with associations and thought leadership groups, communities, different affinity groups that allow us to get access to folks who kind of are those trusted advisors. And that's really how we've built such a robust distribution channel in a short amount of time. It really is leading with thought leadership and education, useful tools and technology, ability for folks to get a flavor or a taste of kind of our filing flows without having to make a huge commitment, but then still preserving them the right to kind of make a commitment and really reap the benefit of economic value. So that's a piece of it too. And then a ton of in-person. We believe in the COVID era, everyone got online and kind of lost that person-to-person touch. So groups like Provisors have been tremendous, which is how we met Ron. The guesting there has been terrific. And doing the in-person events too has been great, especially as we look to serve some of these more private kind of industry groups, such as the family office community. So getting them in person, doing a light panel, not trying to sell you, just trying to help you run your practice more efficiently, understanding their pain points, having kind of the open forum discussions in private kind of closed door environments has been pretty powerful. We're doing the conference circuit too. So any kind of speaking opportunities like this, podcasting has been very useful. So everyone's really engaging differently this day and age, whether it's podcasts while they're going for a walk, walking their dog, or talking to Claude and trying to get insights from organic search through AI response. So we really are looking at the data. We've built a lot of good dashboards to kind of have transparency in what's tracking well and leaning in where we see good traction.
And how are you finding and what are you looking for in connection with target acquisitions?
We're in terms of acquiring other businesses.
Yes.
Yeah. Once again, you kind of do good work for the world and the world kind of scratches your back. I think word's getting out that we've built something really special. I think firms that have tried building technology on their own and haven't gotten as far as they want, or have gotten frustrated or confused or over budget or behind timeline, kind of look at us and say, wow, that's a group that really pulled it off and is continuing to layer it on. So I think somewhat of a gravitational force, I'd like to think, has led to some really great opportunities coming to the doorstep. And we actually work in a really interesting community where everyone is serving each other in some regards, because many folks aren't able to offer all 50 states in one platform. So there's a lot of cottage providers out there who do really great work in their home state or a handful of states, and everyone's working together to help folks like those deliver for the 50 state clients that do come across the board for those types of groups.
And where do you see the industry going? Is there any capacity constraint? Is there some dinosaur killer asteroid waiting to hit that industry from space?
I hope not, but I think the industry is definitely consolidating very quickly. Multiple large acquisitions have happened in the last 12 months, large publicly traded companies acquiring the decently scaled platforms, private equity kind of coming down market to get involved. We've received no shortage of interest from venture capitalists and private equity firms. It's really not a focus for us right now, but word's definitely getting out there. So I think if anything, there's probably more tailwinds and more attention coming our way, for better or for worse. What's really interesting is after working in private equity, looking at investment banker memo after investment banker memo on all the different industries that we looked at over those years, this was one I never really got any exposure to, which is odd because it does fit well within the regulatory industries that I was focused on. So it was almost really serendipitous how it all came together. And I was excited when I got to own this industry without having to lean on exact learning experience. I could write the own write the script myself, but drawing a lot of parallels from my prior experiences in the investment world.
So reflecting back in the last few years, like 3-4 years, what do you think you've learned the most? Share 1 or 2 learning lessons that you have.
Never would I have thought that I could operate as a CTO, for lack of a better term. We've built this business with very great, capable developers that have impressed me every step of the way, and can't thank those folks enough. It's not something I ever learned in school. I did write a thesis in computer science, but it wasn't managing a full build out of a commercially viable software technology that serves over 35,000 clients today. So that was a learning experience and some self-finding that was really, really impressive for me. And also just how everything's a shiny object when you're starting in a business, and really just focusing on 1 or 2 things every single day, how that compounds after a week and after 30 days and after a year. You only have to do 1 or 2 things right every day in order to see an exponential outcome. And I think keeping it simple and knowing what you're good at and doing that every day rather than all the other things.
Can you give an example? Because that's obviously interesting, but a little philosophical on some level.
It's intended to be philosophical. Yeah,
I'm a lawyer. I suffer from that issue.
I think we stuck to our guns in doing corporate filings and not getting into tax filings and not getting into sales tax and all the other licensings and all the other things that people ask you to do that fall just outside of your core. For example, the other day, someone asked me if we could help with liquor licensing and liquor publishing. It's yes, that to a layman, yes, that feels like something a FileForms business would do. However, that's actually really difficult and is a really hard process to pull off. So I would hate to have to put my client relationship and trust at risk by doing something I've never done before, rather than stick to what I'm good at. I know I can deliver on these things for you, and you can just punch those wins every day and build really trustworthy, long-lasting relationships with clients and professionals.
This is all really interesting. Anything I'm missing that you think the audience would want to learn more about?
We serve everyone from the CPA community, CFOs, lawyers on the corporate, real estate, tax, trust and estate side, startup entrepreneurs building their business from the first point in time, and then those who are expanding state to state. Those are the folks we work with. We do it in a way that folks can reap a lot of time savings and monetary benefits. If folks want to get in touch, book a demo, see our product live, I'm happy to book time with our team. You can go on our website, www.fileforms.com. We have a lot of great information, everything from filing deadlines to what needs to be done and when and where. And shoot us a note. info@fileforms.com is a place we can respond to you via email, and then also pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So, listeners, please do reach out if we can be helpful with your compliance needs.
First, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
You really have a lot to be proud of, too. Thank you so much for coming on the show.